To the evening. Good night and welcome to Mindful Live 359, is it? You know, sometimes those numbers beat me, if I'm being very honest with you. Sometimes the numbers are passing me by a bit. But yeah, welcome. It is the 6th of March in the year of our Lord 2024. Welcome, welcome. I am your host, Nathan Springer. We're streaming live on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube. Wherever you are viewing this live, make sure you hit that like button. Double tap the screen over there on TikTok. That's how you hit the like button. It really does help with that algorithm and sending out the notification and all of that good stuff. If you are not yet subscribed to Nathan Springer, my YouTube channel over there, be sure to head over and subscribe at some point in time. Catch any of the lives on repeat. As per usual, this is brought to you by Mindful Education, Mindful with 2 L's _ education. It's the educational institution that I run. We offer learning pods. They are homeschool style, homeschool geared classes, small groups, not large groups, small groups, so the familiarity could be built and the learning could be sped up in that atmosphere. We also offer one-on-one personalized tutoring for most CXC and CAPE subjects. If you are interested, get in touch. But we're talking news, and in the news today, this evening, is Roni still here? Roni is supposed to, you know, have some topics to discuss on the Women's Month that we are approaching, or we have entered here, and there are quite a few stories. And you know, some of these stories, I just find them interesting, the way they're phrased. Let's jump into a few of these stories before we get some more discussion going here. From the UN Secretary General. UN Secretary General. Full legal equality for women still 300 years away. Full what? Huh? Let me repeat it. Let me repeat it for those in the back. UN Secretary General, full legal equality for women still 300 years away. At our current speed, full legal equality for women is some 300 years away. So is the end of child marriage. This rate of change is frankly insulting. Half of humanity can't wait centuries for their rights. We need equality now. The declaration comes from Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres, in a special open editorial he has penned in advance of the world's observance of International Women's Day on Friday, March 8th. While Secretary General Guterres lauds the progress of women's rights over the past half-century, he warns that all those gains could be lost if countries fail to continue meaningful investment in women and girls. We need public and private investment in programs to end violence against women, ensure decent work, and drive women's inclusion and leadership in digital technologies, peace building, climate action, and across all sectors of the economy. We must also urgently support women's rights organizations fighting against stereotypes, battling to make women and girls' voices heard, and challenging traditions and cultural norms, he writes. I have so many questions. I have seen this statement quite a few times in quite a few articles already in the run-up to Women's Day, and I believe this is Women's Month also. This talk about ending violence against women and ending gender-based violence. When we say that, what exactly do we mean? When you say you want to end violence against women, do you mean that as averse to violence against men? Is there some kind of uniqueness that makes it that men don't feel violence somehow? Are we, some non-sentient species who violence doesn't really affect? So when you say ending violence against women or ending gender-based violence, why not just end violence? I honestly don't get it. Especially when you consider that in most cases, women actually are to a lesser degree the victims of violent crimes. By and large, women face violence less. So when you say end violence against women, are you saying that only men should face violence? I mean, maybe I might be okay with that, but I'm an old traditionalist. Some might call me a patriarchal kind of guy. So maybe I might be okay with just us men out there facing the dangers of life. And we must be the only ones risking our life and limb, because I'm that kind of old traditional patriarchal chivalrous guy. But if we're talking modern sensibilities here, how come we're focusing on ending violence against women? What is the point in that? And then when we talk about investing in women, the Prime Minister's wife, Mrs. Rowley, also spoke on some of these issues. Let's strive for gender equality. And in my mind, I wonder, when people talk about this, we must still work for gender equality. I wonder if this isn't a vestige of an old activist argument that just keeps lying around in society as a ghost that never quite is exorcised from our society. Thank you, Crushy Boy. Because what is the equality we're looking for here? In the violent side, men face violence more than women. Okay. On the educational side, and this is the side that regularly people talk about, we have to focus on women in education and educate the girls and educate the women. You look at article after article, Pew Research out of the US, fewer young men are in college, especially at four-year schools. College enrollment among young Americans has been declining gradually over the past decade. In 2022, the total number of 18 to 24-year-olds enrolled in college was down by approximately 1.2 million from its peak, and that is especially seen in men. At every stage of college, by and large, in the Western world, women are far exceeding men in graduation and enrollment. So, in education, we have women advancing faster than men. In violence, we have men being more the victims than women. And even the talk of the wage gap, that very often is explained as the decisions and life choices, etc. Even with the younger generations, when you look at even the wage gap, with the difficulties and differences in men and women that there naturally is, or there naturally are. With the younger generation, you see that millennial women are starting to out-earn millennial men, and are forecasted to continue increasing the amount at which they out-earn millennial men. So if we have the women out-earning the men, the women out-educating the men out-dying the women and being victims of violence more than the women, what exactly are we still aiming at equalizing? You see, it seems to me like when a lot of people talk about equality, what they're talking about is getting it perfect for one, as if it's perfect for the other. Equality is not perfection for the one because it's not perfect for the other. If 0 women die of murder in Trinidad and Tobago, that's great for women. But that's not gender equality, because we're still having something like going up to 600 men dying. So when like this UN Secretary General, and bear in mind, this man isn't just a rum talk, old talker out here. This is the Secretary General of the United Nations. That's why I constantly say, regularly say, I believe these people are neo-colonialists. Just by the way, he was talking about doing away with traditions and cultural norms. Like, how is that your business? Mr. Guterres, go back to your country and do away with your cultures and your norms, and you do what you want with your cultures and norms. That's why I have a special kind of dislike for some of these global organizations. Like, how is it your place to tell people in Trinidad and Tobago that they should do away with their cultures and norms and pick up what? The LGBTQ plus agenda? No wonder you would see then that Mr. Putin dealt with that the way he did. And I'm not holding water for the guy. I do believe he's a dictator himself. But I understand it from their view. It is a kind of seditious movement attempting to undermine your society. Ronnie, what going on?
Putting in place this debate that I will be doing, right, is the UN, of course. And to me, it seems like the UN would rather, okay, the UN is pushing the this epidemic in women, because when you keep quote unquote investing in women, right, investing in women, and you do investment in men, is like, do you think what happens when these women reach the top and then have no men to the top of them for them to want? It wouldn't even be it. Right now we reach a place where you had to share a man, right? If you want these things, you had to share the man. When in probably 10 years time, it wouldn't even have a man to share, because you at the top, you will be the man, and that's what they want. They want you to be.
And Rooney, you know, you're so right in that they actually say this. People read this, and I think many people get the wrong idea when they read some of these things. But they say this clearly. Their agenda is reducing the number of children that women make. And they tell you when they educate women more, they make less children. They say this. And now people assume that what that means is when women become enlightened, when they learn about more things, they understand that they aren't just meant to be barefoot and pregnant walking about someone's house. They are enlightened and they learn. What they don't tell you is part of that is just by default of time that they take women's time and they lock you into institutionalized learning for 25 years. So of course, when you have a ticking clock like the fertility clock and they lock you into education for the first 25 years of your life, of course they limit and lower the amount of children you make. That has nothing to do with you learning more. Then there's the side about exactly what you are taught. When they teach a whole section of the society that, hey, it's actually overpopulated. You as a person, if you really care about the nature, if you care about the climate out there, and they talk about women being at the forefront of leading the climate charge. If you care about the climate, you don't want more humans. Humans are like parasites on this earth, so we want less of them. They literally tell you that that's their aim, and then we're surprised that they're succeeding in their aims. I'm like, you can miss me at that. When you tell me 300 years off, if men are already graduating less from colleges, men are already earning less in the younger generations, men are already facing more loneliness epidemic, men are already offing themselves more, men are already the victims of violent crime more, and you tell me that you want to direct 300 years more of society in helping women advance. What more do you want? Must the men disappear from society and then we would really be equal? What do we need in the next 300 years to happen to then really be equal? Someone would have to explain that to me. Maybe the UN Secretary General could write another op-ed and explain that one more specifically to me, because I don't get it. 300 years more to do what? Maybe a lot. No, hey, Cardell, hey.
I mean, 300 years of equality, right? Like, you know, I always find it funny. I always find it funny at this talk for real, because it's the predisposition of men being at the top all the time, because the talk of the talk is that men have been at the top of society and running the society forever, right? Even though, sure, it's generally true, men do kind of favor leadership more than women do. Not to say that women have never led anything or anyone or any country in the world. They have, and they still do to this day. But it's this notion that it must be a balancing act, right? There must be 50% of men everywhere in everything. Well, not everything necessarily, just in the top. That's what they talk about, right? When you listen to the UK people speak on these shows, it's about, well, there's only 3% of women running Fortune 500. Okay, and have to also fight to get to the top. It's not an easy road to get to the top. You are competing with other people. When you ask them, well, are women fighting to get to the top of the best coal miner? No, how dare you tell women to go to the coal mines and dig? So it's always funny when you think about it, right? It's educate women.
Here's how it's funny on top of that too, Trini Hotep. Because what some people seem not to understand is that, just as you were saying there, it's not all men make it to the top of the Fortune 500 companies, 99.9999999% of men do not make it to the top. Those men who beat out all the other women to make it to the top, they also beat off all the other men to make it to the top too. There are lots of men not making it to the top also. And it's like a risk and reward thing. And because many people view this as a communist kind of idea, where you view things in a group identity, you view that, okay, if a man reaches to the top, somehow that's men reaching to the top. No, we aren't all one cohesive group that do things to benefit each other. Throw away those neo-Marxist view of everything that we were taught. It's just not true. That's not how it goes. There are a very select few men who do excel, but that's not all men. And just how, yes, there are men that might populate the top at a higher amount, men populate the bottom at a higher amount too. You walk around and look at the homeless people, you look at the vagrants, you look at the drug addicts, you look at the people holding on to the edge of society, you look at the people falling off the edges of society. Vast majority of them are men. So if it is that, and it's the kind of way men often go. You look at men in, if you look at men in many fields, when they're negotiating, they're willing to go big or go home. And that what that causes is, okay, if you negotiate and you tell the boss, hey, I'm not working for anything less than $50 an hour, I have rent to feed home. Well, chances are the person might tell you, well, I'm not paying you anything more than $30 hour, go home. You get no job. So that's the unemployed men. But then because the men are willing to take that risk, the one job that is willing to pay the $50 more, a man is actually going to get it. But you won't see that 300 other men got sent home because they made the same request. But now, when you're looking at the statistics, you see one man is making that $50 an hour while all the other women are making lower. It's because all the men were willing to risk asking for it. Lots of them lost the job, but the risk paid off for a few of them. So, what you want is that I must not risk the risk, but I must still get the same level of reward. Be gone with that communist claptrap. Throw it away.
So later,
Yeah.
what you are saying is that women need to actually fight for their rights.
Well, women have never. I was going to say this generalized, but generalized.
I was actually I was supposed to go to because I am pretty sure Tap is talking about that interview with Jordan Peterson and that every single thing Jordan Peterson said, she was like, try, and she just stay home and play with their dogs. The opposite get educated. And it's like, smile. Anyway, continue what you're saying. Oh, but the funny thing is that, you know, this is how radical I become. Jordan Peterson has never said that he wants women to be a particular way. Jordan Peterson styles himself as a classical liberal at that. So he believes in some classical liberal stuff. He's not even that staunchly conservative. So the thing about it is he actually coaches women to be rich. You know what I'm saying? So he in the interview he was never speaking of letting women live with dogs. He was saying, listen, if you have to compete, you also have to compete against men. And of business is ruthless. So to think that I was interviewing him, think that so there's jump the red tape and this lead companies because they have vaginas is crazy talk. It's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Why, you know, and that's such a traditional thing that women want. The ability to move through life with ease. They want to move through life with ease on the backs of men. That's fine, but you want to also trump up feminism talking points. That's ridiculous, right? You don't get to move through life with ease and also say also on the level of men when men had to grovel through the dirt to get it out of there. It's crazy.
You're right though. You're right though. You are right. And you see a lot of these struggles, and the fact is, there are differences between men and women. Because of some of those differences, women generally tend to lean more towards collectivism because women are not as physically capable. Women generally work more in groups. Women work better in groups. Women are better at conflict avoidance. So generally, if women form groups, they would avoid conflicts much easier. Men are better at conflict resolution. Yes, they may fight, but the conflict may end right after that. Well, somebody might die, but nonetheless, the conflict may end with on the female side. You tend to see that conflict last some longer if it does happen. That's why they avoid conflicts more. Strange enough, you see this even in primates. You look at some bonobos and you look at their social structures and interesting things between females and males that are strangely comparative. But because of that, I think many women lean more towards the collectivist view. And the collectivist view has that kind of, well, I deserve this even if I didn't necessarily work for this. Everyone gets a trophy, regardless of who actually went out there and bought the trophies. Everyone gets the trophy. And if you put that, if you exercise that into the reality of life, you see that going on. I was watching in San Fernando recently. I was in San Fernando driving, and two police officers were there, a male and a female officer were there standing on a corner by the promenade there. The female officer in a fully powdered face standing under a tree relaxing. The male officer shining, glistening in that 9 o'clock hot sun, directing traffic, telling people pull aside here, telling people go there. And I'm watching that and thinking to myself, how many situations like that exist where there is a job, male and female doing the job, and it's obvious to anyone observing that the male does significantly more, but they are both paid the same. And then tell me, is that actually fairness? Good night, Paul Duncan.
Yes, it's fair because the men run the police service. The men are the top of the hierarchy of the police service. So yes, it's fair. Get paid for this work. But that's one woman rule. The rest of the executive service.
You know, I've been noting something talking about that one woman and the police service. I've been looking at articles because I've heard whispers that some of the bacchanal in the promotions had a bit of gender business in it. That there was a strangely higher amount of women in the promotions and all of that. And I've been looking, and to me, nearly every set of promotions seem to have been 50-50. If you see 4 men promoted, you see 4 women promoted.
Which is
Insane.
it's insane, yeah, but it's dangerous.
Exactly. That's why it's insane. Because no way will you be getting the best people suited for the job doing that.
Because like this airline, is it United Airline? Want to hire 50% of the pilots male, 50% of the pilots female. But think about it. If you have 50 women, like let me say the pool of men is smaller than men in the first place, right? So therefore, you're pulling these 50 women, these 50% women, you're gonna be getting shit. But I do not care if you are a man, you have I want the best pilot. I do not care about your I don't care about your gender gap. I don't care about I want to my region safe.
I would think everyone would be like that.
Doesn't matter anymore. DEI is a thing that companies must uphold. Well, have to let's choose to, because apparently pressure groups are giving them the end of the step. But DEI is a thing, man, and that doesn't bode well for anything, right? I think meritocracy is supposed to be there, but apparently people don't believe in meritocracy when it comes to their specific ideologies, right? Liberals scream about the fact that, people need chances and opportunities, but no. Let's not create actual opportunities organically. Let's DEI it. You know what I'm saying? That's supposed to be right up the alley. That's insane. Would anybody just hire a president based on gender? That's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? Why would you do that? That's
Well, Kamala is the vice president of the most powerful nation that probably ever existed, and she was hired solely on her race and gender. The president said he is going to hire a black woman.
And we see how that is so racist.
Yes, it is.
Nathan, we see how that is working out.
Yes, we do.
Nathan, we see the drastic slide down the hill of that. Legitimately, we are seeing it happening.
And that is so belittling to the people who even belong to those groups. Now, how are you, if people keep telling me that, well, we have to choose more black people because we're not sure y'all are capable of passing these exams, so we have to choose a few more of y'all to get in here. Anytime I get in anywhere, I'm always wondering, well, did I actually qualify, or is it because I'm black? Like, I don't want to live my life like that.
Ticking boxes, because it's a conversation. I actually had this conversation with Tuna, right? where it is that, many days where it is that people used to be put in positions or used to be selected based on merit, and sadly, that no longer is the case. Well, it it's still there in some places, but you know, most of the places, like especially corporate and so on, they're not right. Everybody just being selected right now because they just go on and they tick a few boxes and that is it. Okay, cool. They go on and that's what I say. I don't know.
Somebody was asking how they became so powerful and like where that came from. I don't know for sure, but I've heard theories, and one of the theories is that I don't know how many of y'all were paying attention in the mid 2000s when there was the Occupy Wall Street movement, the Occupy movement. And along with the Occupy movement, there was a right wing movement, the Tea Party movement also. And both of those movements had kind of a similarity in that they found that a lot of the massive corporations, the wealthiest people in the United States specifically, were doing rubbish. They were breaking laws, they were doing unwise policy movements, and they were ruining the economy, and they were attempting to force some kind of accountability out of them. And strange enough, there seemed to have been a unity among even left and right in the United States, which is a rare thing over there, and that was seeming like there might be some change being effected. Then all of a sudden, all of those corporations who were facing the backlash over the financial crisis ups and became woke. All of a sudden, they care all about the gays and the blacks and the transes and every other cause. All of a sudden. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a corporate side to this, where a lot of these things are purposefully done by the higher ups, because basically what it is it allows authoritarian levels of control. A meritocracy could be questioned. Why didn't person A get in if person A got the higher grade? We could look and see and make sense of this. If it isn't a meritocracy, it's what I say goes. And they tell you it's about diversity, equity, and inclusion, but it's not actually diverse. They choose who they want, and it's oftentimes a very undiverse group of people in terms of their ideology. It's not equal because everyone doesn't have access who they say has access, and it doesn't include everyone. So it's not actually as caring as they try to make it seem. It's a special technique for authoritarianism, and that's from the corporate side. That's from the top down side. But from the bottom up side, where some of this came from, where we're talking about some of this came from, is social media. Social media and the algorithms of social media. If you all were on social media in the earlys, you all would know one of the most popular things on Facebook in the earlys was police brutality. Police brutality videos went viral by the day because the companies actually spoke about this. Women click more, and rage is the thing that makes you click the most. So basically, what many of those companies started doing was looking for things that would get women the most upset. And for some reason, police brutality was the thing that rose to the surface. And years of that kind of algorithmic manipulation, forcing a victim mentality, as it were, preying on the maternal urges of women. That maternal instinct to feel sorry for people, to feel sorry for the weaker one, that maternal instinct that makes sure that the runt in the pack isn't left out. Okay, yes, this is the smallest pup, but we have to make sure that he gets food too. That's the maternal instinct. And it's very good for children. For children, that's very important. It works beautifully. But when you get to managing societies like that, you get the focus on the victim mentality that we have right now. From the top down and from the bottom up. That's the theories that I have seen and heard that make sense to me.
No, but that is the truth, right? The truth is this, and this is why I say the companies, they don't have to, because they benefit from it, right? Like, you really think a huge company like Nike they could do whatever they want to do. There's no pressure necessarily. Yeah, sure, radical groups, some pressure groups. It benefits to side with you every that's a month of you paying themselves on social media and get big amounts of donations every year. And the radical people seem to be very rich by the way, gets the kickbacks that the Trinidad and Tobago government get. People who get state contracts nowadays. So, you know, that people think that they are about to get somewhere with anything. No, sing mega corporation in America gives a rat's damn any of that thing. Just like how I don't even believe the UN really cares about that. The UN is just drumming up support. That's it.
Bro, just look for that month, the month of the multicolors. Look at their logo in Qatar and Saudi Arabia. And strange enough, it remains in whatever the original color was. You think they care about your cause? No. It's not about your cause. And Ronnie, yes, the pressure is on. That's why actually for women, it's kind of an advantage disadvantage in a sense. Everything is geared towards you because you are the prime buyer, you are the prime clicker. But that's not a good thing because that means everyone is aiming actually not to give you what you want, but manipulate you into wanting what they think you should want. So it's like the entire social media landscape is out there mostly focused on manipulating women. The most part is they're aiming to, it's kind of obvious the manipulation they do for men. Everyone knows when they're targeting men. You look at the thumbnail and they're telling you about drinking enough water for the day and you see a woman in a thongs. Okay, we know that this video is for men. The manipulation for men doesn't require much conniving and
Just saying is men are easy.
Men are simple. Men are straightforward.
We're not saying it easy, but
Straightforward. That's what I'm saying.
we just saying, sometimes it's kind of
Bro, we don't need to beat around the bush. We men are straightforward. We men are straightforward out here. Everybody knows the call to open the door. Like, it's no secret whistle and you have to learn any code. No, you come on the door and knock hard 3 times. And the man is going to open the door. We know that. Men straightforward. It's the woman where there's some more, subtlety. But the thing is, that doesn't actually make men easier than women. The reason is kind of because the women are easier than men. Women buy and click more. The men don't. It's the women that are the majority of the buyers and the majority of the clickers. Like a statistic I always look at and find interesting that somehow many of the people who quote this statistic, like they don't look a little further into it. People regularly talk about how much it is that men earn the most money in society. Men are the majority of the earners. But women are the majority of the spenders. Like, story, doesn't it? If this group is making the most, and this group is spending the most, a story is being told. But either way, the women are by and large the ones that are selected to be advertised for. Even oftentimes when they're advertising to men, they're advertising for women to buy something for their men. Because you might more likely get a male product sold by getting women to buy it for their man than getting a man to buy it for himself. That's just the way that commercial industry goes. And because of that, women are oftentimes the target audience. And that's not a good thing. It means they are aiming to trick you at all times. the colors, the shapes, the shades, the scent, the words they're using, they're mama guying you. Why is it that body positivity isn't a male thing? Why isn't it that the body positivity movement isn't geared at men? You don't generally see no fat bubble ups man out there looking to make a name for himself as an influencer. Generally. I mean, we know there are exceptions. But most of the times when you see the body positivity thing, it's aimed at women. And something that's interesting. You look at Dove. Dove was at the forefront of body positivity. This soap and all the body positivity things that Dove is aiming at is for women. Interesting. Like, there aren't fat men out there. The fat men, you can't be confident. Just for the women. Products on one side is trying to tell women that you must be comfortable in being. You think that they care about you. You think they're telling you this because they love your diabetic tail? No.
Pharmacies are number two. Medication that they're going to sell to them to cut down on the sugar, loss, all kind of shit to them. It's like,
yeah, you look at many of those pharmaceuticals and who are they geared to?
Everything revolves around.
Yeah, true. And who spends the dollar? And in the advertising world, it's by and large the woman. And with Woman Day coming up, I think that's an important thing to consider. Because you are being advertised to, you are the one most often probably being lied to. They aren't being forthright with you. They lie to you because they want your clicks, they want your purchasing power, or they want your votes. They think you are the one that could be convinced more easily, so you are the one they're going to attempt to lie to and trick. And it's so unfortunate that it seems like it works so often. Rooney,
So,
where your questions? Or you're not hitting with the questions?
if I have a question here, man.
did you like it?
Yeah, boy. Just I'm trying to, boy, listen to me, So much time I say I'm not this thing, and then I change my mind, and then I change my mind. So I know actually sit down to write my little speech thing. Basically, the whole thing, touch on most of it, because obviously the gender in finance and say about rights and accessibility and whatever. It's just crazy to me because, again, so I view this whole thing much like how I do affirmative action in America. Because it's like we're seeing is we do the ability to get done ourselves now. Come on, better than that. Are we better than have can we are better than that? Because we never get any chance to prove it. Like, okay, wait a 50 years and see if we do it, and then try to add in your policies and them kind of thing. Okay, we have a chance to feel, but then women don't like to feel. I am a woman. I would say that straight. I hate to feel. Feeling is not in me.
But
I would
here's where I think a large issue arises in all of this, Rooney. What is even success? Is there a well-defined image of what success is for the woman? Like, okay, for the man, the image of success might be you're wealthy, you're married, you have multiple children, and okay,
success.
what is the female success? Is it just mirroring male success?
Kind of. Except or children. See. Yeah, just
And
the money.
and
Acre.
and then tell me, is it that the image in the societal zeitgeist of female success, is it an image that women actually want to reach to, like they want to aspire to? Like, one of the problems we've been falling into in the last 6 years or so with movies, the Marvel, oh gosh, what they call this, this new Marvel universe, the, oh gosh,
It's a modern.
Have the Marvels, have Miss Marvel.
MCU, right? The MCU. That's what I was looking for. Like this, the latest incarnation of the MCU. And one of the problems they were falling into is they were creating characters that they believed were empowering female characters, but women did not like the characters. Women didn't turn up to look at these movies. Women didn't find these characters to be heroines in their lives. They didn't look up to these characters. They didn't fawn over these characters. These characters didn't go viral for women because they're not actually characters that women aspire to become. And that's one of the unfortunate things in modern times. To me, this is me speaking my opinion here. And as the father of a daughter, I'm speaking this opinion too. Looking out, I find it seems like few of the in the popular culture, like there isn't an accurate view of what is even success for a woman, because they're trying to throw away the old traditional views of finding a Prince Charming that you really love off of, and he is going to take you away from your family and you're going to live happily ever after. And no, that's an old archaic view. No woman wants that anymore. But strange enough, the young girls loved that story all through the 90s, 80s, 70s, 60s, 50s, 40s, 30s, 20s. That same story attracted woman after woman after woman. You could tell the story simple, complicated, any way you wanted. Prince Charming, sweep her off her feet, had a little conflict in how they get together, and eventually they ride off in the sunset happily ever after. They love that. But no, that's too archaic. So we have to throw that away and now make the woman's aspirational story into basically just a man with a skirt and a vagina, and all of a sudden that is supposed to be the aspiration for men. But it isn't. It isn't. They're forcing this WNBA thing, but women don't look at the WNBA. It's male NBA fans. I could tell you because it's my father who watches WNBA. When no other game is on, they scroll through and, hey, WNBA boy, I was taking. There they have some good technique, good technique. Good look at the pass, and it's men who taking that because they are the sports fans in the first place. You think little girls watching this and want to grow up to be some mannish looking tall giant woman? You think, and no offense directly meant to the WNBA stars, but do you think that's what young ladies want? I look up and I want to bump chest with my female brethren now, yo, and get them a. You think that's young ladies' aspiration? Of course not. So that's why women aren't watching it.
For example, when they really check it, is these companies and thing is they don't, right? When you check the people, like if you check us males, and stuff, right? We were two mates, so used to like go outside, play sports, right? Come back inside, eat mommy food, come go back outside again, and we came into that. Whereas I mean, I never really had a sister per se. You know, they at least for female cousins and thing, they usually used to be like, the Disney Channel female things that catered towards, towards them. Say it's a movie example, they just don't know. It's the same thing with pushing the women's sports and thing. Right? Actually don't know sports even. catch them watching sports just so, right? It's always me, my dad, everybody sit down on the couch and a couple of those are staggering. And only shouting, especially with the football.
And you see what you're saying then, knowing your audience. They brought back the 90s X-Men, the X-Men that if you're a millennial, this is the X-Men that made you like X-Men. This is show. But if you are a young man who grew up watching this X-Men cartoon, one character, Rogue, stuck in your childish memory because the cartoonist who drew Rogue knew the audience he was drawing Rogue for. I don't want to get creepy when talking about cartoon and comics here, but you all could go and look back at those historical drawings of Rogue. Bro, bro, they educated the young men. Yes.
As a child, you don't think about it, and think, but as an adult, she have a this way.
Yes, Willie Bang. Willie Bang, the storytelling was splendid, but it's not just the storytelling that young men looked at this show for. But that was understanding your audience. They remake this thing, and they try to make Rogue into a realistic character without the added pencil flair. Let's see, the flair of the extra flair of the pencil was removed. Like, who are you making these comics for? Who are you making this for? It's knowing your audience. Go, yeah, Hotep.
It's, well, I think they know the audiences. It seems that, again, they keep trying to gain the voices of certain folks, but comics are generally consumed by men. That's for one. Men consume comics more than men do. And I hate for the fact that people think that men and women share the same interests when they don't. Men and women don't share the same interests, they don't think about the same things. But we keep trying to hammer it down that men and women are the same in every regard. Ah, that's crazy. So what are we supposed to do? Make the W silent and just say men and men? Like, what is we supposed to do? So the thing about it is this realistic drawing of trying to capture essence of real women. Okay, that's fine. We see women every day. We see the average woman every day. But the point of a comic or the point of entertainment is not to see the average woman. I'm not trying to diss women. Men are great. Men look very well.
But you're right.
But we're not trying to see. I am not trying to see. I like black women. Trying to see 180-pound black women square up. I'm sorry. I'm trying to see modest.
Bro, that's so. And I heard somebody talking about this as in one of the problems with having live action remakes in the first place. The idea of a comic, of a cartoon, is it's an art in and of itself. The aim of a cartoon is not to tell a super realistic story. Like, I don't know how many of you remember Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and part of the storyline of it was understanding that cartoons don't do what live action does. And you tell a story differently through a cartoon than through live action. That's why you use that medium. And, in knowing your audience, that's why the Japanese them beating off all these American billion-dollar comic companies. They're beating them off in anime because anime writers and drawers, those artists out from Japan, they understand their audience. They understand. No, they're placating to their audience. That's what they're doing. They're writing to their audience. You look at the irony in some of that is some of those Japanese anime stories. They write that, and they draw that, and they draw characters that don't look near Japanese. And when the characters come over to the US market, some of these over woke clowns in the Western market are like, well, this is cultural appropriation. This character is a Japanese character. Why isn't the character looking Japanese? Because the people didn't draw it that way. They don't care for your woke sensibilities. They are about storytelling. So that's why the woman has legs, the proportion of the legs, her legs end right under her breasts. That is the kind of proportions they're working with.
Nathan, this is how funny it is, right? Because this is how narrow-minded the radical mind of the people of the West is, right? Japanese anime is very diverse. It's ridiculously diverse. I've never really seen an anime necessarily where the women are operating in traditionally what we would deem old school kind of vibes, but they look a particular like the average woman. Let's take one character out of Naruto, Tsunade. Tsunade has the well endowed chest of all time. She's a strong female character. She's one of the strongest female, literally in physical strength, and how strong her mind is. And she was in the village. So the thing about it is, she captivates what the woman necessarily is, but she keeps feminine flair to it, and she does not look like the average woman. So it's funny how Japanese artists could get everything right in one regard, but for the life of me, blue and people up in those writers' room who feel they're making a little cash and feel they can't even make one proper character for the show.
Because they start from the wrong point. If you start from the point of entertainment, your aim is to write an entertaining character. Then writing an entertaining character becomes a lot easier. But if your aim is to pontificate first, your first aim is to spread your message, the truth and gospel according to social justice. These people are religious zealots. That's what they are. They are members of a religion and they're trying to evangelize. That's why the shows aren't that interesting. It's like, and I'm a Christian guy, I'm a good Christian brought up guy, but if you could recall, and you watch some Christian movies, especially from the 80s and 90s, a lot of them were extremely corny and not very good in the entertainment level. Why? Because the message was the most important thing. They tried to tell a message and then tried to build a story around that. And then it kind of gets a little corny. And that's the same thing happening now. Some of these modern movies sound like they progress like old Christian movies of the 80s and 90s, where you could tell, all right, we get it. You are trying to get your religious message across predominantly. The main thing here is the message. The entertainment is secondary. And that's what they end up doing. And that's why their movies end up being boring. They don't aim at the entertainment first.
My question is to everybody, well, fellas who here, why is it that, how to phrase this? So if they're not catering to their market, right, and failing on their market, their customers, and they failing on the other side because the people they actually pandering to aren't customers, they aren't they probably just watching to see if they do the right thing. Why do they continue pandering and not making money? Why do you think they do that?
Part of it is pandering, but part of it is shaping cultural change and shaping cultural progress. Remember, a lot of these people belong to a political view, a political ideology that literally calls themselves progressives. Their aim, their idea is that they want to move society along in the direction it should be moving. And even if society doesn't yet want to go that way, it's like a society where they still abuse women and women aren't allowed to and allowed normal rights, we know that that's what they believe, but it's the wrong thing to believe. So what we need to do is progress them from that point into further enlightenment. And that's why a lot of these people are narcissists. And when you push them, you understand that they think they're better than you, because they do. They think that they understand how best to structure society. And that's their aim. That's what they're doing. That's why it's so underhanded and subversive. That's why they're trying to do it with everything. That's why you would think, like, okay, if you're just trying to pander, if you just want to make something to make black people happy or to make the gays happy or something like that, you'd write a new story, write a new gay prince or something, write a new black person story. Why take the old stories that have fan bases already attached to the old storylines and try and tweak them into some kind of weird modern something? Why do that? Well, the reason you're doing that is because you want to change the mind of those old people. Those people who liked Star Wars from the 80s, you find they are modern misogynists. They are not misogynist nerd bubble. What we're trying to do is get into that misogyny and change it. That's why we put strong female characters to lead the new Star Wars franchise.
That's exactly why I didn't watch. Because to base it for Jamaica, right? Also, it was like, oh, we playing high in Jamaica, blah, blah. Write a new story. There are stories about fishermen in the Caribbean seeing movies. Why not write that story? Stand for school, carry
Rooney, you have no idea. Go ahead, finish.
So we call them different, right? So simple as like Sukunya. A Sukunya, we just call it here Sukunya. In Guyana, they just call it, I don't know, I forget what Guyana's call it, like Jaraka, something like that. In Mexico, they just call it Quitasu. In India, they just call it, Africa, they just call it Obi. I forget what India just call it. But all of it is the same thing, a bloodsucker flying in a ball of fire. And if you write the sounds from somebody from Africa, somebody from Mexico, somebody from India, somebody from Trinidad, will have different stories varying around the same thing. So they could have done the same thing with the movie. Tell your story of the black movie in the Caribbean or Jamaica or whatever, for the coast of Jamaica and the fishermen, blah, blah, blah. You come in and write this, start shipping it. The show was shipping. The whole show was shipping it. The songs was crap. I love Harley. It's a good thing. The songs are making trash. Under the sea was utter nonsense. The animals horrific to look at. Scuttle, like, oh my goodness.
Scalibad!
I love Disney. I cancel my Disney. I know supporting Disney. Anything I have to watch on Disney, I am watching it. Of the I avoid movies for the most part. I tend to take series these rounds. Just due to the fact that I don't even take in big budget movies anymore. See, I find it kind of I find it no. What I take in for the most part is movies because I found a few YouTube channels that have some interesting movies on the movies, right? And they talk about the of creativity in the movies along the progressiveness of the movie. So I tend to take it in and I tend to analyze it that way. I've come to realize that they are making the movie for their fashionable friends, which meaning in little small in city dwelling progressive liberal. That's it. It's not really for the mass majority unless they're trying to convert people per se. But the show is to appeal to that. It's like when She-Hulk comes. She-Hulk was not for everybody. She-Hulk wasn't even really for men. It was for middle-aged. It was for middle-aged single city dwelling women with a little high-powered careers and whining about the fact that they can't get a man. So the thing about it is that's what it is. You know what I'm
I'm saying? That's why things are lacking today. Now, in terms of Little Mermaid, I find insulting to come and give us the dregs. Like, I don't want your dregs. We talk about racism and white supremacy, but I find that insulting the races. That you would come here and give me some scraps off the table, your massive scraps off the table, instead of giving me a proper story, a proper original movie. Think, here, you black people, take this. We are done with it. You can hear it now. That is so insulting. It's ridiculous to me. Who needs to be punched? Who needs to be punched in the face? They in those in Hollywood streets, man. What thing? There are a documentary that I was looking at. You know, Disney went and separate companies, DreamWorks and them. Like, you know, have like the separate writers and so on. They have some scripts that don't, that they could just pull up some really nice stories. They could just pull up a movie of, and instead they just keep regurgitating the same. It's like literally taking a child that was growing up to love very fondly and basically hey, taking our right.
Here's the thing that hurts me so much with these things. Like Ronnie was talking about since the earlys with the story of the Little Mermaid that they couldn't retell it. They made this Cleopatra story recently, and they're trying to make Cleopatra black. Listen, Cleopatra was one of the very few of them that you could pretty clearly trace her lineage, and it was not sub-Saharan. And here's the interesting thing. You know, there were sub-Saharan dynasties in Egypt. They know for a fact that there were Egyptian dynasties with rulers that were known for a fact to have been sub-Saharan. The Black Dynasty, they know that. So, okay, you want to tell a story about Egypt. Okay, you want to tell a story about black people in Egypt. So why choose the one that is for sure not about black people in Egypt? Why not actually go and tell the story about black people in Egypt? And there are interesting stories from that dynasty too. There are interesting stories. Like, I didn't like the Woman King because they seem to have been trying to sanitize the history of a slaving kingdom. But I like the Woman King in that at least they told a different story. At least they told a story from Africa. Like, instead of going and finding Viking stories and putting a black woman as a Viking king, jeez, some kind of self-respect. Like, write an African story. Do you think there weren't wars in Africa? You can't tell a compelling story of intrigue and betrayal and kingdom building and kingdoms falling out of Africa. Are you so incapable of doing some research that you can't do that? It's so ridiculous. Yeah, Ronnie.
People will take these movies and think they will go and they'll take these, like, especially when they go and say based on historical, based on historical facts or so on. And whatever you take and push on that screen is what people will take to heart and say, watch out, they will take it and run with it,
Yeah.
Just to answer, I think you take it because the mid-millennials, late millennials and the early Gen Zs, we are the generation that, so it's easy for us to find entertainment in the
Hey.
My gosh, this movie reminds me of when I was a child. So I go into the cinema dressed like a child.
Yeah, remember berries. Remember this? Remember that?
When I was a child, kind of. I mean, Faf, thing is gonna do instead of trying to build something that might come, they rather just play off people, right? See that with Disney 100 movie. Oh my gosh, horrible. And they then they just take story on black people that was just very popular. Bit of insult to black. Right? They probably just think we don't have any black dynasties in the first place. So it's like we named Cleopatra. So if we say that she was black, anybody who say she wasn't is a racist. So just go and just say Cleopatra was black. So hard luck to everybody else. They're not gonna just be like, they don't really any of the actual black dynasties in the first place. Just
You know the offensive just now. The offensive thing with that is it's black people many of the times creating some of these things. So if they're insulting black people, it's black people insulting black people. The point about millennials not growing up, I agree with that. Something I was noticing. You notice they're making coffee cereals, like coffee in a sweet cereal for breakfast. I think that is a symptom of the millennials not growing up. Cereal for breakfast is a childish thing. It's a childish thing. But I bet you a lot of millennials still eat their cereal for breakfast. So what needs to happen now is you need to age the cereal up. Don't be surprised you see some liquor company start advertising some kind of morning liquor for your cereal. Because big people want to drink a little rum with the cereal, so it's childhood plus the adulthood mixed in. And another thing you see with that, when last new artists have been made, all of the most popular artists now, well not all, but a large number of them were the same most popular artists from 2006. Because we millennials are still living in our childhood. I agree with you. Yeah, Hotep, what's up?
yeah, man. That's just the truth. You know what I'm saying? Like, I find black liberals to be the most extremely insulting because I expect white people to do Caucasian things. But you know, these high and mighty black liberals who be ashing the hand of black people say, no, you indoctrinated colonial blacks. How dare you? How dare you tell me what Egyptian history? This is insane. And I love the fact that Egypt pushed back on the thing, by the way. But I would want to believe that Africa push back against the Hannibal thing as well, because I push back against the Hannibal Barca thing as well. Hannibal is not Africa. He wasn't. He lived in Africa in a territory that was created by non-Africans called Carthage. It's just to think that he is black is an insane theory.
And
right?
it annoys me because the history to these things are known. They know where the Carthaginians come from. They were Phoenicians. They came from actually that Levant area, right kind of north of Israel there. The theory is that the Assyrians started to be a little too murderous. Those Assyrians were quite a group back in the day, and they chased out some of the people. The Phoenicians were extremely good traders and merchants. They went over to the tip of Africa there and formed Carthage. It's known.
Yeah, and I find this insulting from black people that to actually dig deep in research into African history. This is the most vain, vapid stuff I've black liberals just parrot my talking points to this degree. This is insane because I expect Caucasians to not even give a damn African history enough to even learn it. That's why you have in all of Africa and think she could tell a story on King, and she thinks she could actually grasp the history of West Africa. She went to Kenya, by the way, which is she didn't even go to West Africa. This is insulting. So I expect the white woman to have black girls doing that is the most insane thing when they have to champion all this black history talk. When you can't even get simple, basic history on, like there has been 3 Cleopatras. 2 of them has been actual Egyptian women. Only one has been Greek. What about the next 2 of them? But actually, what about the several different African and who have in Egypt and any other African countries?
Listen, there are some Egyptian queens that when you read their stories, you're like, why isn't there a movie about this? And they come to tell you another story about this baddest. This 2,000-year-old baddest. Like, oh gosh, we hear the baddest girl story already. There are many other stories. We have thousands of years of history. You're going to tell me the same story every time and just try and squeeze in somebody with differing melanin and somehow that changes it. Nah, give me a break, man. I rather sit and watch some YouTuber attempt to make a video than go and waste my time and money watching that nonsense.
I just find it highly ridiculous, man. Like, yes, if you want to do the woman thing, sure. There's many that Queen has seen, yeah. There's come on, Queen. There's many African queens if you want to go and make it Cleopatra black. Just
There are many, and that's the laziness of it too. There are many. If that's truly your interest, if you believe that what we need in the society right now is to see more black queens of history to be on the center stage, okay, well, go actually find black queens instead of insulting black people. And what that does on the global stage is now people treat this like it's a whole group of black, like all the black people are aiming to do this, and all the black people are out there trying to beg for the scraps. We're begging for the scraps of being some barely famous white character in history. Like, bro, I don't need this. I don't need some historical character to have been black for me to feel good about myself. Like, y'all don't need to do that for me. If you're doing it for me, you don't need to. I'm good over here. I'm real good. It's so belittling.
what truly is insulting is the blatant race swapping actual known white historical characters like Anne Boleyn. That stupid little series that black woman
I don't
was
get it,
married to the white man.
bro.
And she was Queen Anne Boleyn. That's ridiculous.
Bro, if I was an actor, I'm not taking that role. I'm not taking that role. This is insulting. This is insulting. So you're begging out here. You're begging. You know what that kind of says to me? It says to me that they believe your part in history is so small and insignificant that we have to lend you some. That's what they're telling you. Your part in history is so small and insignificant, you have to borrow some from us. Here, you could have that one. Borrow that one. Weirdos. Real weirdos. And people are acting in these positions. Nah, I'm good.
Are they going to make Hitler black next? You know,
I doubt that one.
well, some people
You also, talking about that, you also Google's AI couldn't make white characters. The AI was so woke. If you asked Google's AI to show you pictures of the founders of the United States, it showed you black men with Indian women and Muslim women in hijabs. It's so woke that it became ahistorical. It will not show you white men. Now, it created problems when someone asked it to show a rendition of German soldiers from the 1940s. And they showed black men.
in German 40s and yeah.
But the thing is to have this Netflix documentary that they have now. Where it is that if it is that it goes and it asks him to recognize a face, you know the AI will recognize a black person's face, it will recognize a white person's face. And start so flicking it turned from only showing white illustrations now to flicking black.
The thing with the AI is, and that's why people that are frightened about AI as being some kind of unique monster in the machine that's going to take us over. You're not worried about the AI. It's the people that are programming the AI that you have to worry about, because that's where the problem lies. But with the facial recognition part, that wasn't actually racism. That was physics. Being black, being a person with a darker complexion, what that literally means is your skin absorbs more light. The darker complexion, the colors are light. The reason you see colors is you're seeing light reflecting into your eye. When you see white, the color white, it's because basically all of the rays of sunlight, white light, is reflecting back into your eye. The darker the color is you see, by and large, usually means more of the light is absorbed or not reflected back into your eye. A dark colored person is going to reflect less light back into the camera, giving the camera less data to analyze, as Jima King says, less information, not as accurate a picture. And I mean, as a darker person, you should know this. It's not racism. You know, if you stand with the light behind you and take a picture, it's a silhouette. You understand this. You understand this. Or at least you should.
And as you say that, it reminds me of feminism, the feminist movement versus the the BIPOC feminist movement. So, it's so funny. Complain BIPOC, complain. Feminism didn't do anything for us when we went to the hospital. Doctors would take us seriously because they couldn't, in cases of abuse and stuff, they would say we were taken because they couldn't see the bruises. But babe, if somebody is white and they get a lash across their face, it's clear to see. If you are dark skin, it might be a bit more difficult. It's not racist because they couldn't see it. Like, think about it. You think about it. Right? That was be real bad. It to be recognizable on a condition. It's nobody's fault that they couldn't recognize it now. Could they have done a better job at feeling? Just feel if you're reacting to pain or sure. But like to just have this blanket, everything is about this. It's like so crazy. Like we didn't have that illustration in science books. That's why they didn't. Blah, blah, blah. Babe, it's just melanin. Thing is different. It's literally just the that in your skin is the only it happens between you and a white person. That's it. It does magic for you.
Were you talking about girl melanin magic? Black girl magic?
That's a fact. As much as you see one, it doesn't do anything else. It protects me from the sun. Yes, but
I am pretty sure I once heard someone say that melanin has some kind of special power in terms of connecting us spiritually to the creator. So you know, it's because it's so black people are actually more connected, you know? And black people are the original humans. So we have special power.
I had a friend when I told him like I was like, oh my gosh, like that he went to hell, right? To hell. I was like, what? The super radical conscious people the super radical black conscious people kind of upset me because it's ridiculous. Like systems have always been different than a lot of people around the world, and that's fine. You know, tend to have a specific theme around spiritually base ourselves, to base ourselves. That's fine. And we could say that that's linked to African people because that's that. But to say, you know, carbon, this and melanin, that, and we from the seventh quadrant of the sky because it is really where our material is. Alright. And to think that white, you know, it's the same thing with, the same thing with Nation of Islam thinking that white people were made by Yaqub on an island, and black scientists named Yaqub. And that's why some of them call people Yaqub, is because a black scientist on an island made white people in his lab. Right? So it's crazy.
Listen. If you all go down some of those rabbit holes, they go deep. They go deep. And to me, you don't need to go that deep if you're interested. There's a lot. There's a lot of very interesting history within the realm of reality without having to go off the deep end like that. And you know, the interesting thing to me, Hotep, it's like the horseshoe theory kind of way. Some of the extremists on that over black side sound a lot like the extremists on the over white side, where they're always attempting to get some kind of historical link to show that, you know, there's something very meaningful. Like their life is so worthless in the now that they have to get some person thousands of years ago to show, like, look what my ancestors did. That's my claim to greatness. My claim to greatness is written in the code of my DNA. So my white skin and blue eyes is preeminent among the world. Everyone wants to be like me. And really and truly, you're a poor subsistence peasant living out in the back of Appalachia, the worst part in the United States, but you're feeling good about yourself because of that one little shred of dignity you're holding on to through your legacy. It's kind of pathetic, really and truly, when you think about it, and very similar. I subscribe to neither. I understand the greatness there is. I understand that there has legitimately been oppression in history. There has been some suspicious activities in history. Certain places do seem to have gotten the brunt of the assault. I don't think it's only melanin is the difference. There are other substantive differences between race. I believe that. I believe there's a reason, for example, why they chose Africans to be the substantive slaves. There's a reason. There's a reason why the sprint, you look at the sprint final, and it's kind of a reunion kind of look.
It's obvious because
So there are differences.
I mean, if we be and this is why sometimes I tend to joke with people on Twitter and say why people are very smart, and it's true. Why smart in the terms of how they talk about because it's the truth. Right? People like to talk about how white people are evil, but the truth is they are very much intelligent in order to spread their people's all to the point of having the largest empire on the face of the planet. Right? Nobody else has ever done it.
They won the game of colonization, and that's why I regularly say this in these talks. I don't hold colonization against the Europeans like colonizer, because everyone tried it. They all tried it.
Literally.
The idea that there were some noble savages out there who had no interest in doing anything but in living peacefully with the earth. And well, if there were them, they were dead in a very short period of time. The vast majority of people were trying to conquer as much as they could and hold on to it. It just so happened that the Europeans, with the timing and the advancements and the inventions and all of that, they just hit it at the perfect time and they won the game of empire. But even with that winning, the victory didn't last forever. So, like, why am I holding that against people? And even in the modern day as it stands, I wouldn't doubt if Sudan or one of those countries had the ability to launch an empire and take over a whole half of the world, they might have done it too. It's not like some genetic default in white people only.
It's not. It's not. I think it just plays out perfectly in the geography of the thing. I mean, the Mongols tried to literally claim the entire new planet. They just was stopped at a certain point, and the Persians tried to do the same thing. The Persian Empire was quite large at one time. It was a point in time. Alexander the Great kind of did it too when he conquered Persia and then literally spread Hellenic culture all over the place.
The Assyrians, the Arabs, the Mughal empires, the sultanates, the those in India, what they call the Maharajas in India, the Chinese dynasties, the Japanese attempted to do it. Who is these people with year one? This guy attempted Cambodia. What was the name for Cambodia back then? I forget the name, but Cambodia had an empire attempting it. There were actually lots of empires out of East Asia and South Asia. They attempted it. There was the Ghanaian Empire. The Nok people before them, the Benin Empire. These people were trying it over and over and over.
And what I find kind of ridiculous is when people talk about, well, Africa didn't try to colonize other groups of people. I'm like, they tried it, but the thing about Africa and its general kind of ethnic makeup is that it was hard for Africa to even get a literal swath of its continent because Africa is a huge to actually conglomerate into a humongous empire like a Persian empire and then to the other side and conquer other groups.
Africa is massive.
The Empire was just only so big. The Ghanaian Empire was only so big that when they conquered, like let's say the Benin Empire, they had to fight each other, and one had to win, and then it would where would they traverse? It's just like empires in Africa started and ended so quickly they couldn't reach nowhere. That doesn't mean they did not attempt to conquer anybody
So
else.
there are many reasons. So for one, malaria. A large portion of Africa was basically untouched because nobody could have done anything to solve this malaria problem. Mosquitoes wiping people out, and mosquitoes aren't the only danger in Africa. Just so you know. So there's dense forest in the middle, then there's a desert, and then there aren't much rivers spread apart. Like, if you look at the geography, it's not conducive to that whole maximizing of empire. It allows for small tribes, and you have inter-tribe battles, and there were always those inter-tribe battles. And as the tribes conglomerate and get larger, the default of the geography would mean that they could only get so big. So sometimes people would compare the mud huts of Western Africa that they had during the Middle Ages with the castles of Europe, and they would talk about, like, the Africans were so dumb and backward. Look at mud huts with straw roofs. And look at what Europe had in the meantime. The Europeans went to Africa, attempted to build their fancy European houses, and ended up building mud houses with thatch roofs too, because the atmosphere meant you had to be able to breathe. You couldn't breathe if you didn't build that mud house with the thatched roof. So geography and climate had a lot to do with Africa's outcomes. But it's not to say that it was for lack of trying. There were many attempts at colonization and spreading throughout Africa. And for example, on the eastern coast of Africa, you would see even further some more of that, where some of those sultanates, some of those Muslim empires actually had some pretty wide spreading footholds in eastern Africa. So it's not totally true that it didn't exist in Africa. It would have been difficult for an empire to be born in Africa and then spread outward from Africa, because you would have to cross the Saharan desert. The only place you could do that was from Egypt. And from Egypt, it did happen with the Kushite Empire eventually taking over Egypt for some dynasties and rising from sub-Saharan Africa out of Africa into Egypt and kind of into the Middle East there. But that's kind of the only way you could have done it. Other than that, you were going to try and take your whole empire army and march across the Saharan desert. Good luck with that.
It would have been ridiculously hard, because as we all know, how empires kind of work is that you kind of suffer the fact of trying to hold the empire that you suffer your interior, and you know what is to try to recall people to try to back your interior. Like if the Mali Empire had to fend off against, let's say, Central African Empire, and like let's say the Mali forces were somewhere deep in the middle Western Asia, how are they marching back to the west coast of Africa to defend what over a large desert? They would die. Everybody would die. The Mali cease to exist. Yet, I think people when people think about Africans in attempt colonization or whatever, like think about the continent you're speaking about. Like Europe could have done this. Europe was so jam-packed together at the geography that they could have done it. Like France and England had a 400-year to battle each other and then spread out. Like,
and the history of it, this game of civilization and empire began kind of in the Middle East region there, Egypt and the Sumerians, whichever decision you want to go with, who came first. Some people talk about the Sumerians, but to me, logically, it seems possible more Egypt, but okay. But it started there, and they just kept going. After one civilization dropped, another came up, or one dropped, another came up, one dropped, another came up. So it was this trail of falling empire, rising empire, falling empire, rising empire. And that's what Europe was created out of. Yes, there were the Gauls and those wild tribes in major Europe, but they were civilized by the Romans. Europe could pay their civilizational head start. They could give that credit to the Romans, because the Romans went through and by force, for the most part, conquered much of the uncivilized, savage Europe and Romanized it. And from that point on, a lot of what we consider European culture was formed from that. The major European country, the original European country, the Holy Roman Empire, that's what the theorized Hitler himself was trying to recreate to some extent. But with Charlemagne the Great, and from his lineage, nearly all of the kings and queens of Europe came. You look at that, and you look at even the name of that empire, the Holy Roman Empire. So it's not like something that was a legacy of European history per se. It's a legacy of empire building history. And they took the empire building history of the Romans and translated it into Europe. The thing is, the Romans never touched sub-Saharan Africa. So there was never that style of empire building, because they weren't able to. They spoke about, there's history about Greek adventurers that ventured as far as they could down the Nile, and they recognized, hey, down in the middle of Africa, tough boy, we can't go. And that was just kind of the reality of Africa for a very long period of time. Small warring and trading tribes were the maximum you could get from that. The carrying capacity of the wild land was just too low for humans. I mean, if you believe the evolutionary tale of humankind's movement through the earth, we developed in Africa, we were born out of Africa, and we fled Africa for the most part. We moved out of Africa, and it's only out of Africa the flourishing happened. The theory, biologically, if you're someone interested in biology and evolutionary biology, the theory is that one of the reasons Africa was so difficult for humans is if we did indeed involve in the African biome, it would be perfectly suited to keep us at our correct number in our ecosystem. You know, in ecosystems, in the study of ecosystems, um, foreign animals than ecosystem are worse because this ecosystem doesn't have the counterbalance to make sure that the animal stays at the right ratio. Well, the theory is that Africa had all the right counterbalances to make life as a human so difficult we couldn't have abused the African biome. That's the theory, at least, if you're into that kind of thing. All right, people, we went a wide range of discussions there. Let's wrap it up. Let's come to a close. Let me hear your final statements from the panel.
So if you mind, you could summarize article where I was reading about men not graduating. I mean, men not going to college.
Yeah, I would.
I'll be. You guys enjoy it. It was in here. Don't catch me with peanut butter in my mouth. So I can't talk about it. Um, yeah, to RL, the history of Egypt is quite unique to that it was a cradle of civilization. Yes, Egypt hasn't been wealthy for the entire period, but when we're talking about the dynastic era, Egypt, yes, they were quite wealthy, but understand that Egypt was very they didn't call Egypt an empire necessarily, but have an empire to a certain degree. Egypt was a large kingdom, and yes, a lot of pharaohs were rich and Egypt was generally wealthy, but then again, we're talking about a kingdom that was either attacking or being attacked for the most part. Egypt had attacked over a lot of people, but I mean, Egypt being poor now really have to do with the style of governance per se. And if we keep it up, we kind of tend to realize where the governance of Egypt has led to. And you might like to say this, but the Arabs are the one governing Egypt and has been governing Egypt for quite some time. And certain Arabs tend to be socialist, so we understand why Egypt is in the predicament when it comes to economics. You understand what I'm saying? You know, that's the truth. I'm talking about a place that is 98% and like the governing body is Arab. So let's think about that per se, right? We're talking about the Arab Egypt and that too. So, yeah, Egypt fell to many people, and the last people it fell to was Arabs, and they tend to be socialists there. So, understand that. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Adriel, you there still, bro?
Yeah, just take it. Some last remarks there. As good as everybody. Hey, topic for this time, like.
Tomorrow's Thursday talks. We just talking tomorrow. I don't know what the topic will be tomorrow. We'll be talking. Nice, man. All right, as Trini Hotep says, be mindful, not mindless. Thank you guys for tuning in. I hope you're educated, informed, or entertained. I am Nathan Springer. This has been the Mindful Live. I'll see you guys again tomorrow, Thursday, for the Thursday Talks. Join in then. Until then, people, stay well. Stay safe. Peace out. Bye.